Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Glory Glory podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me tonight is my regular co host, Chris Nugent. How's it going, Chris? Good to be back on.
Yes, Kyle, it's always good to be on, have a chat with you, mate. Circumstances, once again, aren't exactly brilliant, unfortunately, but always good to have a chat with you and, yep, get it thrashed out anyway.
Yeah, it's safe to say we're both absolutely depressed after that one. I don't know how we managed to get knocked out tonight because we really should have been 4-0 up at half time, and somehow it's turned into a complete and utter disaster. So what was your immediate takeaway from the game? I'm sure there's going to be loads and loads to discuss, but give me your short summary to begin with.
Well, yeah, lots to discuss, Kyle. Yeah, I mean, in short, we didn't do enough. We didn't close the game out. With lots of chances, didn't take them. And at any level in professional football, Premier League, Championship, whatever, you're coming up against good teams. You don't take your chances, you're eventually going to get punished. That's what happened. We can debate all day about whether it was a handball or not a handball, but whatever the rules said that it wasn't a handball, and you have to go by the rules. So really, I don't think we can blame anybody. Can't blame penalties or anything. We just didn't do enough to win the game. That's my take home from it, really.
Yeah, we'll definitely discuss the handball decision and also the penalty shootout. But first of all, we have to come to United's bluntness in front of goal. I mean, I think Rashford, Bruno, and Ronaldo all guilty of missing chances. And like I said, we should have been 4-0 up at half time. And I was saying even during the game that first thing in Monday morning, this team needs to be put through 4 hours of shooting practice because it was absolutely abysmal, wasn't it?
Horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And the worst thing about it was players that you normally rely on. Ronaldo, number one, to score. The ball falls to Ronaldo, and you go, flip. If it falls to anybody, that's who I want the fall to. You get a penalty, you think, who you want to take your penalty? Flip me, Ronaldo, all day long, every day. And he's missing. And then Fernandez had that chance. I felt slightly that it was harsh to criticise him there, because if you see it, the keeper's actually sliding across to that side. I think he pulls it further away because the keeper's coming that way. But you could say he should have stopped, put it the other way. Again, no composure there from him in that situation. Rashford the same. It's just chance after chance. We dominated the game. We really did. I never really felt under any real pressure from Middlesbrough. But Paddy McNair said in his interview afterwards, every time we missed, they got more confidence, and that's just not good enough.
Well, I did say during the game that I was getting worried that the fact that we weren't taking chances and was afraid that it's going to be one of them nights because we don't trust our defence. We know that they're always capable of leaking goals, and that's exactly what happened. Although it was a bit of a bizarre, award of a goal. Everybody expected handball to be given there, and then somehow it was not. I mean, who would have thought in the era of VAR a player does a Thierry Henry and the goal is given anyway? I just totally it confused everybody. Now, apparently, what we're being told from VAR and the referees association is that it was accidental handball. The rule states that only the goal scorer can accidentally hand it for it to be disallowed. Other than that, it has to be deliberate handball. But it's not as if that it was back on halfway line. This was in the box. This was the guy who assisted the goal. And if he doesn't control it with his arm, the goal is not possible. So I'm really, really frustrated with that decision, even though that we should have took our chances, obviously. But can you understand that decision?
No, I feel exactly the same as you. That's exactly what I thought. Was if you watch it, he basically miscontrols it. The ball is heading towards the byline, and because his left hand is where it is, it stops it from going that way and keeps it in a position where he's then able to play it over the top of the defenders for what is it, Crooks or Crook to run in and score. So if he doesn't handle that ball, there's no way in hell that goal happens. So I don't see how, accidental or not, I don't see how the goal can stand, because the goal was a direct result of a handball, deliberate or accidental. I can't understand. The rule may say that it's a goal, like you said, Kyle, oh, it's only the goal scorer. The rule may say that, but I just can't understand how that can be deemed as if that was an accident and that really then had no bearing on the goal. the goal was purely, because of the handball. It makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, the rules an ass. Yeah, simple as that.
Completely, completely.
Lee Dixon and Sam Matterface both just expected to be ruled out. I couldn't believe that the wild celebrations of the Middlesbrough players. I was thinking, guys, this is going to be chalked off. I don't know what you're celebrating for, but somehow it was given. Apparently even the Middlesbrough bench expected it to be chalked off because they've got a monitor there.
Even the
Uh,
player himself, I think, thought it was going to be chalked off. I listened to his interview afterwards, where they put a clip on it, where they asked him what he thought, and he sort of said, "Well, I thought it." He actually said, "I need to see the replay myself." So he himself was, "Oh, I need to see the replay to know." I felt like it was an accident for me, and you're going, "Well, he's not. I'm sure himself." That tells me that he's thinking, "Yeah, I think I was getting away with one there." So yeah, I think even he himself wasn't confident that it was going to be that it was going to be given, and that tells you all you need to know. The guy himself, what thought that he handled it. So I mean, what more do you want? But yeah, VAR, the rules, whatever. Like I say, the rules an ass, and they deemed that was okay. But let's be honest, Kyle. That aside, one goal, lucky, whatever it was, we had chances. It could have been 4 or 5-1. So I find it hard to blame the referee for the reason why it didn't go our way tonight. But yeah, but
Yeah, it's so typical of United to totally dominate the first half. Probably their best performance since August, arguably, and somehow it still turns into disaster. Obviously, the performance kind of tailed off a wee bit in the second half. After they scored the equaliser, we did have some chances. Obviously, Fernandez's chance against the post came after that, but we weren't as threatening as we were in the first half. And then things really started to unravel when he made the substitutions. Obviously, Pogba had to come off because he hasn't played much football in the last 2 months. So Fred came on for him, and Alanga came on for Rashford. I wasn't complaining about it at the time, but in hindsight, it didn't really work out. And then Sancho got injured to make matters worse. And then you're bringing on Juan Mata because Lingard's not didn't make himself available for this game, and Juan Mata, the problem is he's just not a wide player. We went from having lots of pace on in wide areas to just relying on Rolanga purely. We had just four midfielders then and the striker. So it wasn't really what Mata coming on for a winger is not great when you're chasing the game, if you know what I mean. So things really started to unravel. They started to get more chances. I think Henderson was called into action a couple of times, and it just the longer the night went on, the more you got that feeling that it was going to be their night. And during the penalty shootout, Dean Henderson, like we called for him and Gdansk to come on to replace De Gea, especially after De Gea saved nothing in that shootout, and it was more of the same tonight from Henderson. So that ends that debate about him being some kind of savior when it comes to saving penalties. Yeah, so just a disaster all around, really.
yeah, completely. No, I think you make a good point there about Henderson, and I thought the same in Gdansk. I kind of thought, De Gea was notoriously not great at saving penalties, while he is a great shot stopper. And I thought, maybe Henderson would have done better. But yeah, it's hard to know. You could say that some of the penalties that were taken were brilliant. I have to say the quality of penalties were high, but Henderson, and the other goalkeeper the same. But we're talking about Henderson. He's a United player. Got absolutely nowhere near anything, not even close to anything. He may as well not have been there. And I was actually nearly getting the point where I was thinking it's gonna go down to Henderson taking a penalty himself, and I thought this will be interesting. Replay of Gdansk. Let's see how he does when it's on the other way. But unfortunately, it didn't work out for Alanga. But yeah, just a disaster.
Yeah, he was good in the game when he was called upon. It wasn't very regular. A couple of times, obviously, between the second half and extra time. In the first half, he had nothing to do. But in the shootout, he was very, very poor. Similar to, yeah, we all seem to play teams that are amazing at penalties. We're a bit unlucky in that aspect, but Henderson, just like De Gea, he didn't get near most of them, but the one he did get near went right under his body, and I think that happened to De Gea in Gdansk as well.
That's
So
right.
De Gea has actually improved in terms of penalty saving this season. I know he saved Mark Noble's penalty in the last kick of the game against West Ham, and he saved two penalties in a row against Watford. Remember when the first one had to be retaken because there was
That's
encroachment,
right.
and then De
That's
Gea
right.
saved it again.
That's right.
Um, so I actually would have rather had De Gea tonight. It's funny the way things kind of work out that way.
Yeah, I know completely. I know it is ironic, and it is. This is the thing, you're always we're always hopeful. You're always thinking to yourself, De Gea didn't do well. Henderson would have done better. Maybe Henderson would have done better, but it turns out, it's come around that actually, yeah, De Gea might have been the better man for the job. But I agree with you, Karen. I thought he actually did well during the game. And again, if you could turn out and say Henderson digging into the penalties and Alanga missed, but my feeling when the game was over was that neither of those two guys were who I would be pinning, the way the night panned out on. I don't feel that the penalty shootout really should have happened. I feel we should have had it, let's say, dead and buried before that. And yeah, so I mean, I don't feel to agree for Henderson about not doing so well in the penalty shootout. But yeah, I know he was decent during the game itself. So yeah, can't ask for that much more really.
Yeah, I suppose if we're going to blame individuals, the first person we have to look at is probably Ronaldo. Unfortunately, I never thought I'd be saying this, but I think he was atrocious tonight. He started off quite well. I thought he had that overhead kick, which he got on target. Then he tried the flick up and volley like Henri, which didn't quite come off. And I thought he started off well here. He's in the groove, and then he missed that penalty. And then it seemed to be his touch and his control was off, and he just wasn't burying the chances the way they expect him to. It was one stage where he went round the goalkeeper and he took it on a bit of a heavy touch, and then he tried to keep it in, and then he kind of messed that up as well.
So
So it wasn't a good night for Ronaldo at all, was it?
no, I completely agree with you. And the thing is, maybe it was the quality of opposition. I've seen games where Ronaldo barely gets a sniff and he barely gets a touch, and you would say he's been anonymous tonight. But even in those games, when he gets a chance or two, usually you'll think if he gets two or three chances, he's very likely to put one away. And as I've been saying in this podcast all season, Kyle, this is why we bought Ronaldo. We didn't buy him to go on 40-yard dribbling runs. We bought him to put the ball in the back of the net. And so I was always been happy with him when he was doing that. But tonight he had chances, and he wasn't doing the one thing that I've thought this is what he does. This is what he's good at. This is why we bought him. And if he's not doing that, then he's contributing nothing, in my opinion. So tonight he had one of those nights, yeah, where I don't think, yeah, I think he just contributed nothing. If I'm absolutely bluntly honest, when Alanga came on, I actually was half thinking, if it was me, I would be taking Ronaldo off and leaving Rashford on. Not that Rashford was much better, but Ronaldo, as you say, wasn't at it. I thought take Ronaldo off. But then being Ronaldo, the manager probably thought, well, maybe Ronaldo's more likely to pop up and do what he does. So I can see why he didn't take him off. But I think if he had been taken off, he himself couldn't really have complained because he wasn't really at it. Yeah, I think he had a poor night.
Well, we can't say that the manager lacks courage to take Ronaldo off because we've seen him do that against Brentford, for example. And we know anytime he is taken off, he throws a strop. Um, but yeah, I was thinking the same. Not to take him off because he can always pop up with the winner, like he's done on several occasions this season.
Yeah.
I suppose in a weird way, it's better if he's anonymous and then scores a goal. If he's really in the game like he was tonight, then sometimes it doesn't go well. It's strange the way it can work out like that.
No, exactly. That's exactly my point. I'd rather watch him literally not touch the ball for 85 or even 90 minutes and then pop up in minute 92 and score the winner because he does what you want him to do. But unfortunately, like I say, tonight, and maybe it was down to quality of opposition, he'd much more of the ball, much more chances, much more impact on much more. He was in the game more, but he didn't have the output, and that's what we need him for, is to have the output, that final piece. And tonight he didn't have that. So yeah, I would say disappointing performance from my perspective from him.
Yeah, there's obviously quite a bit of the season still to go, but I thought he would have had more goals at this point than he has. And you could say that some of that is down to the lack of service, but you couldn't say that tonight. Definitely, he had the chances there to score 2 or 3 goals. But it just come into my head there. Another substitution that kind of blunted us was Phil Jones coming on for Varane. And the reason why I say that is because Varane is good on the ball. He's so calm and composed. I thought he was really good tonight. Jones comes on, receives the ball, and he looked very jittery from the start, and he's always passing it back to the keeper. Whereas Varane, he's got the confidence to take the ball past someone, or do a sell a wee dummy or something. whereas Jones just looks nervous anytime the ball came anywhere near him. So that kind of set us back as well, didn't it? Because Maguire isn't very confident on the ball as well. So we had two of them there. Yeah, it wasn't great. And Fred replacing Pogba, you're obviously you're decreasing in quality there as well. Because I thought at half time that we were going to be sitting here tonight talking about how great Pogba was and how great Sancho was, but I suppose we can, but it's obviously not the main talking point. So yeah, the substitutions really kind of, we regressed when the substitutions came on, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, from an attacking perspective, we 100% regressed. Yeah, looking at those substitutions on the face of it, you would say they were poor ones. But like you pointed out there, Kyle, the Pogba substitution for Fred was done because Pogba doesn't have enough game time under his belt. So he probably had to come off, and I guess I can see, given with who we had on the bench, why he brought Fred on. So I think it's probably it's hard to argue against that. Jones coming on for Varane. I wasn't actually sure why Jones come on for Varane. I don't know if you have any thoughts on why. I was just something surprised me. Unless Varane was struggling with something that nobody really noticed. Maybe he picked up a bit of a knock or something, or it was something he was feeling a bit tight. Maybe and maybe nobody realised. I don't know, but I couldn't see an obvious reason to make that a substitution. Usually centre backs aren't getting run ragged, in games. So normally, unless there's an injury, you don't normally need to substitute a centre back, at all, really. So I was quite surprised. It would nearly make me worried that something had gone amiss with them. But it was an odd one. But yeah, like you say, I think we suffered slightly attacking wise, ironically. Whenever Varane come off and Fred come on as well. But yeah, but really, again, I think we still had enough chances to win the game up until that point. Um, so yeah, it's again for me. I don't feel like the manager, cut off his nose to spite his face with the subs or anything. I feel it was yeah, we should have had the game dead and buried before that, really.
Yeah, I didn't think he would make any subs in normal time because they were creating enough chances to score goals. Um, but obviously, Pogba not being, match fit enough to play, 90 minutes was obviously a factor. On Varane, it confused me as well because I just looked up at one point and Phil Jones was on the ball. I was thinking, when did he come on? I could totally miss that. I'm assuming it must be a fitness problem as well because either he was feeling it tight or they're just protecting him because he does have a poor injury record, and they thought maybe 120 minutes might be a bit risky. You'd rather him kind of miss extra time tonight than ended up missing the next 6 weeks of the season. So it probably was a wise decision, long term.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's it. I mean, I didn't see any an obvious reason for it, so it must be, yeah, one of the things you said there. Maybe they just thought to protect them, which is fair enough. And again, I don't feel like, the two substitutions, killed the game, or if only for those subs, we would have got back into it and like that. We had chances, we just weren't, we were just toothless. And then even at times towards the end, it reverted back to the usual story where the opposition sits back and we whip cross after cross after cross into the box and they head it away and clear it away. And it reverted to more of the same of what we've been seeing for a long time. And it was just predictable then at that point, and you just knew it's gonna be penalties because you thought another half an hour of this isn't going to make any difference either. And that was a shame, because up say 60 odd minutes or 65 minutes, we really looked like we were creating chances and we could have won it. But again, you have to take your chances. Yeah, and we didn't do it, and so that's what happens. You get punished.
Okay, I know there's not many positives, but we'll just talk about some of them now. Obviously, Paul Pogba had a really good game. What I was saying to you on WhatsApp was that if he's lazy and disinterested, then he'll be exposed by a hardworking championship team. But when he's on his game and he's showing all his ability, teams at that level won't be able to live with him, and that's exactly the way it was, especially in the first half. You could probably make the argument that he's paying for a contract at Real Madrid or PSG, and that's okay.
Most
If he
likely.
if he plays like that for the rest of the season, then we'll reap the rewards of him, giving us all. And obviously Sancho, probably arguably his best performance in the United shirt to date. I mean, he hit the crossbar with a lob, and I think the first minute. Then he obviously scored that goal that was deflected. Hopefully, he gets the goal this time. He can get a goal chalked off against Burnley, because he came off a defender.
Yeah, I thought that
Um,
too.
yeah, I thought he's really good tonight. And he created more chances as well. So there's a couple of slight positives there.
I thought Sancho played brilliantly. I thought Pogba was good, exactly like you said, Kyle. I do like Pogba when he's on his game. He's absolutely brilliant at retaining the ball. He very rarely really loses it. Even when you think he's going to lose it, he doesn't. I really do like how good with his feet he is and good on the ball, and he was doing that all the time tonight. I thought he had a really good game. There wasn't really anything you could criticize. And like you said, he was putting the effort in. I thought Bruno had a great game as well. Yes, yeah, take away the chance that he missed. He was creating chance after chance after chance, putting people through, playing good balls, lovely weighted passes. I actually thought he was brilliant, to be honest. I thought they were probably our three best players on the night. Yeah. So some positives, some really good performances. And I guess from it probably tells a story really that are three midfielders. Really, I know. Well, I guess Sancho was kind of an attacker, but he did deliver. We're having good performances, so we were creating chances because those guys were playing well. But Ronaldo and Rashford particularly just weren't putting them away, and that's why you don't win football matches.
Yeah, Fernandes did have a good game, but unfortunately he'll be remembered for that miss in terms of this match. Um, so what did you make of Luke Shaw's performance tonight? There was some good moments, obviously going forward. Probably the best of them was the cross where the outside of his left foot for Ronaldo's overhead kick. And he put in some decent crosses that no one got on the end of. But again, defensively, very narrow. Henderson's first save of the night came from Shaw being too narrow, and he just doesn't get close enough to the right winger. But even going forward, he was very hit and miss as well. So overall, what did you make of him tonight coming back into the team?
To be honest, yeah, I agree with everything you said, Kyle. That probably sums up exactly my thoughts. I thought there was moments where he looked good. There was other moments where I thought he looks completely unfit. He's nearly standing on people to try and bring them down because he can't get near them. Defensively, not getting tight enough to people, not looking like he was going to put in last ditch tackles, and he was giving people too much space. And I actually was nearly surprised by the end of the game he was still on because I kind of thought he doesn't look fit enough. But there is one thing about Luke Shaw. He is quite economical at times with how he uses energy, and that is a compliment. There's times I think he's able to get through games without absolutely busting his guts for 90 minutes. He is intelligent enough, and he can cover the ground when he needs to. But he looked a bit unfit or something. I thought he didn't look sharp. Don't think he looked sharp. Um, yeah, and that I guess that's probably sums it up. Really, I just don't think he looked match fit or sharp enough. But let's say, somehow gets away with it. But yeah, defensively he wasn't great, and he didn't do much going forward either. So yeah, no, I don't think he had a great game.
So would you say that season over then? Because I mean, finishing fourth is not an achievement at Manchester United, and the likelihood of us winning the Champions League is about the same likelihood as one of us winning the lottery this year. So, is that season over?
It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. I mean, yeah, in terms of yeah, it doesn't look great, Kai. I mean, really, the only thing we can hope for is top four. Like that's where we're at. Is that we hope that we scrape into the top four and secure Champions League football with everything that it comes with the money and with hopefully attracting players in the summer. Although we could talk for all day long about whether players want to come and who's doing the recruitment and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, top four for me is the best we can hope for. But for Man United, that is not remotely what you call success. So yeah, I guess you could say it'll be an unsuccessful season no matter what happens at this stage. But for me, the best we can hope for is to finish in the top four and get in the Champions League next year. But yeah, I think you can at this point say it's going to be an unsuccessful season. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and for next season, we absolutely must get into the Champions League because there's going to be several issues if we don't. But it's going to be a very, very close race because Arsenal are in there, Tottenham in there under Conte, and West Ham obviously still with a chance. So it's not going to be easy, especially with how weak we are at the back and how weak our defensive midfield area is. So, and the fact that we just can't put the ball in the back of the net, that's all a bit of a problem, as it would be for any team. Um, yeah, just it's very, very depressing, isn't it? I thought, for all the world, we'd put Middlesbrough out of the FA Cup and we'd get into the fifth round, but we can't even manage that these days. That's just how poor we are at the moment. So, if everyone give us a wee like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts down below, and we will now move on to the player ratings. So I'll call out the what I think each player deserves, and then you let me know if you disagree with any of them at the end. So I'll start off with Dean Henderson, and based on the 120 minutes plus the shootout, it's going to have to be a 3 for me, unfortunately. Um, Diogo Dallo, yeah, just okay, really, just not brilliant. Going forward or defensively, I think I just thought he was okay. If anything, he's probably better defensively tonight than he was going forward, which is not really what you want from Dallo. So I would say a 5 for me. Varane, yeah, I thought he was fantastic. When we know that he's just an elite centre half, and he performed that way tonight until he came off at the end of normal time. So he would probably get a 7.5 from me. Maguire um, wasn't his worst game. He's definitely, if you piece together the previous match and this one, you would say it's been a stark improvement in what we've seen so far this season, which isn't really hard. But yeah, I would probably go with a 6 for him. Shaw, yeah, I would go with a 5 just based on what we discussed earlier. Um, McTominay thought he's really poor tonight, to be honest with you. I thought his touch and control were off. He just didn't really have much of an impact on the game. He's a very inconsistent player. Sometimes he can look absolutely brilliant, and on occasions like tonight, he can be really, really poor and ineffective. Pogba, yeah, I thought he had a really good game. Like I said, I think he's playing for a contract elsewhere, but man, that'll do for the time being if he can get us into the top 4. So yeah, I'll go with an 8 for Paul Pogba. Fernandez, probably something similar. Well, I'll bump him down to a 7 because of that miss where he hit the post where he should have buried Middlesbrough there. Okay, coming on to the forward line, Sancho, yeah, probably their best player on the night, I would say, him or Pogba. So we'll have to go with an 8 for him. Ronaldo, very poor, like we discussed. Probably a 4 for me, in all honesty, and I hope I'm never giving him that low score again. And then Marcus Rashford again. No, one of those performances where he has several chances, and each and every one of them he just puts his head down and just blasts it rather than trying to pick a corner, and he kept blasting it straight at the keeper, and that really frustrates me. So I'd probably go with a 5 for Marcus Rashford. And Ralph Ranić, I think he picked the right team, but the substitutions kind of killed us. And I know that some of them had to be made, but the fact that we got knocked out of the FA Cup by Middlesbrough, I'd have to give him a 4. So any of those that you would disagree with?
Not really, Kyle. The only one I would say is, yeah, I can understand Henderson why you give him such a low score. But like I say, I thought he had a reasonable game, and I don't feel, despite the shootout, I feel like we should have been in the shootout basically. So I feel like for me, why we're out, it was more down to probably Ronaldo and the forwards and some of our not taking the chances than it is down to Henderson. So that would be the only one I would maybe say maybe a wee bit harsh, but I can understand exactly why you give them that score. So yeah, that's the only one to argue with. The rest, but yeah, no, I would completely agree with you on. Yeah.
Well, I'm willing to revise that score if you can persuade me, because I know I'm probably just basing the 3 on the penalty shootout. Had we scored a winner in the 120th minute, I probably would have given him a 6 or a 7, to be honest. But he was really, really poor in that penalty shootout. It was probably just as bad as De Gea was in Gdansk. So it hasn't done any. There's lots of United fans who love David De Gea, and understandably so, and they don't think that Dean Henderson is anywhere near his level. and doesn't deserve to be even talked about in the same breath. And they'll all be feeling that they're correct with that opinion tonight. Um, so you've got to say he hasn't done anything tonight to prove that he's a worthy challenger with De Gea, uh, and he's obviously been complaining about his lack of football. But you've got to say, based on what we've seen tonight, eh, you wouldn't really be that disappointed, would you, if he was sold for £30 million in the summer?
No, I wouldn't be. I mean, Dean Henderson for me, I always think that goalkeepers are a really, really difficult thing because because a goalkeeper they rarely really get injured and they rarely really miss games. It's a difficult thing to be an understudy. And a club like Man United obviously wants to have two high quality goalkeepers so that if they ever need that understudy, so they can rotate for cup games, and so that if on that fluke chance that a goalkeeper is missing, that they have top quality replacement. But the problem then is that you've always got the second keeper. If they are at that level, they know that they could be the number one choice at another club, and so that's why I understand why Dean Henderson doesn't want to. He wants to get a move and he wants to go. The thing is, he came to Man United, in my opinion, looking at De Gea in a bad run of form, getting a lot of criticism, and I think he thought, and it's the right thing you would expect a winner to think, is that he could take De Gea's place. But I have to say, I would probably agree with the people, with the fans who think that he's not, he's not in the same conversation as De Gea, and I just don't think he is. I don't think he's ever going to be. Not saying that he won't become a top class keeper in his own right, and maybe one day down the line, be it for Man United. I don't know. De Gea is obviously not going to go on forever. But right now, De Gea is definitely still the better keeper for me. So if Henderson went, it probably, for his own sake, it probably wouldn't be a bad move. And maybe again down the line, maybe he would come back, when De Gea is retired or whatever, moving on, and he could come back and be our number one, if that's what he wanted. He's a good keeper. But yeah, for now, I think it wouldn't be a bad move for all parties if he did move on.
Yeah, the way I see it is this: it was only a debate when De Gea was out of form.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
when De Gea is at his absolute peak, Henderson doesn't even come into the conversation. So as long as De Gea is there, he's just not going to be the outright number one. And my prediction is that he will end up in Newcastle in the summer. I think they're looking for a goalkeeper. I think they were looking to take him on loan in January, and I think in the summertime he'd be looking for a permanent move, and they'll probably come in and offer good money for a goalkeeper like him. So watch the space. So I
That's a
won't
good
be
shout.
surprised about that one at all.
That's a good shout. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair shout. Yeah.
Assuming that they stay up, of course.
Well, yeah.
um.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We want to talk about the future, if there is any. Um. We're obviously hoping for a new manager to come in and lots of players to leave and get some players in the summer. I think there is going to be major changes because there's so many players who are out of contract and so many players who've just been getting no football whatsoever and will just be desperate to leave. And those players have already experienced a change of manager and still getting no chances. And some of them have obviously went out on loan and some of them are still there. So I can see major changes happening this summer. It'll not be the usual 3 in, 3 out. But it's very hard to see a manager like Ten Hag succeeding under these conditions. Like we were even seeing the manager giving Lingard his blessing to leave the club on deadline day, and the club blocking the transfer and blocking Dean Henderson's loan move to Watford and all as well. So the same old problems are still going to be there. I'm afraid. I don't think I'm coming around to your way of thinking. I don't think we're ever going to be successful under this ownership. We just gotta hope that we get the right manager and a group of players who who have the right attitude. Um, but it's hard for that to happen considering how players are indulged at this club. They're given more power than the coaches, and they know that they can get a manager sacked. It's even worse this time around because they know that he's only a temporary manager. So and I'm seeing lots of off the field issues, ill discipline. In the story from Duncan Castles about Armand Bissaka phoning in sick and not even coming in to be assessed by the club doctors, just ringing in and saying I'm not coming in today because I don't feel well. And the fact that he can do that just shows the issues we have. Jesse Lingard, of course, everyone's been talking about the last few days. He was on holiday in Dubai for 10 days and didn't get his move to Newcastle or West Ham, and saying that he's not in the right headspace to play in this FA Cup game and won't be returning to training to Sunday or Monday. Obviously, he's tried to dispute that online and probably to see a face, but it just shows you the problems that the manager has in dealing with this dressing room. They're just a bunch of players that have been overindulged too long by the board.
For years, for absolutely years, Kyle. The thing that I find the most ironic about all this is that if you think about it, what Man United actually at board level or ownership level, whatever it is, what they're technically looking for right now is a manager who can squeeze every single ounce out of the players that are there, because they don't seem they don't ever seem willing to indulge a manager completely and let him tell them who he wants rid of and who he wants to buy. They always seem to be putting their nose in one way or the other, buying players a manager doesn't want, giving new contracts to people he wants rid of, blocking loan moves like we're talking about. That's been going on for years. The irony of it is, what they're actually looking for is Alex Ferguson. They're looking for Alex Ferguson, somebody who can squeeze every single ounce that, like he could, out of the players he had there, because he had absolute respect and control that players would never have crossed him. He got rid of superstars because he thought their attitude was wrong, and the club never blocked those. They went, David Beckham, you're not an Alex. Alex Ferguson doesn't want you, doesn't like your attitude. Out. Roy Keane, one of the best players that we've ever had, doesn't like your attitude. Out. They knew if they crossed Ferguson, they were gone. So he always commanded respect, and that's why he got every ounce out of them. But ironically, the minute he retired, they decided to do away with that regime, and they created this culture, and they've shot themselves in the foot, in my opinion, because they either get a manager in who they indulge, like say Guardiola has at Man City, where we give him all the money, but you let him buy the players to shape the team exactly how he wants, get rid of Joe Hart, get rid of anybody who doesn't suit your system. They don't do that, so the manager like that's not going to work. But then whenever they do, have a manager, who maybe is willing to work with what they have, they undermine him. So that's not going to work either. So they're not doing anything for me. And how is that ever going to work? The culture has come to the point now where player power is out of control. Players have been indulged, like you say, far too much. They don't know what it means to have a winning mentality because they've never been shown what that is. And that's why, in my opinion, why we are where we are. And it has to be a mindset change and a cultural change at the club to turn things around. It's not players, it's not football and quality. You can buy the best players in the world, but if the attitudes are all wrong, their heads over the place, they're not focused, they're never going to be successful. And that's, for me, is what's going wrong. And yeah, and don't feel overly optimistic right now that it's going to change. I hope it does. I hope that Ten Hag, say, for example, Kyle comes in and they change. They realize, we have to back the guy. He's good at what he does. We'll listen to him. If he doesn't like a player, we'll get rid of the player because he said so. If they do that, maybe things will change. But it remains to be seen because I haven't seen it since the day Fergie retired. I haven't seen managers being back to that level. So I'm not that confident that's going to happen now. But who knows? Ed Woodward's stepping down. There is at least some changes going on at board level, so maybe those changes will filter through eventually. But yeah, right now it's not looking great.
Yeah, well, what I've read several times in the last 9 years, I can't remember all the sources. I think one of them was The Athletic. And what they said was that the Glazers were unhappy with the amount of control that Ferguson had. And once he stepped down, they were going to change that. They weren't going to allow the first team coach to have that level of authority. And that has been to the complete detriment of the football team. It might have benefited them commercially, but I mean, it's just made the football team into an absolute laughingstock.
Completely. That's it. That is exactly sums it up in a nutshell. And the thing is, they took over in 2005. He was there for 8 years. And, like, let's be honest, they weren't spending extravagantly. They weren't spending extravagantly. They were buying players, who weren't at the same level as the players maybe were being bought before that, but we were getting away with it because Ferguson was able to squeeze every single ounce out of those guys. And that, like you said, Kyle, part of that came down to the level of control that he had. But the day he retired, they wanted to take all that away, yet hoping that the football success would just continue. But that's never going to happen when you take away everything that made Ferguson successful, which was that level of control and allowing him to make all those decisions with football in mind as the priority. Once they changed all that, it was never going to be the same. You can't take away, you can't change the whole structure and hope that things will just fall into line. It was never going to happen. Yeah, and so it's proved.
No, it wasn't. They wanted to have the best of both worlds, and they could. If you had a successful, if you have a successful football team, all the commercial revenue is going to come in even more so than it is now. But they don't seem to grasp that. I have to say, I was trying to be hopeful a couple of weeks ago about the whole Richard Arnold taking over from Ed Woodward thing, but I just don't believe that anything is going to change, especially considering that Arnold went to university with Ed Woodward. They're both accountants and bankers, and they're both businessmen. They're almost best mates, basically, as far as I understand. So it doesn't. He's just the same sort of guy. It's not as if we're bringing in Van der Sar and things are going to change. It's just the same type. It's not Ed Woodward per se, but it's the same type of guy. So he's a Glazer stooge. I don't expect anything to change at all, despite what he says that he's going to learn from Edwards' mistakes and he's going to give more authority to the football department. That should have been happening 8 years ago, but I still don't think it's going to happen now. But the proof will be in the pudding in the summer. But based on those loan moves being blocked on deadline day, there, I'm not optimistic at all.
No, me neither. And the interesting thing too is, him saying I'm going to learn from Ed Woodward's mistakes. But the fact is, if this guy's so close to Woodward and has been observing him for years, working with him for years. I don't know how long Arnold's been at Man United exactly, but you know, he should have been seeing any mistakes that were going on himself. It sounds to me when he says that he's not really, that he doesn't necessarily even think that he's seen any mistakes. He's talking about the stuff that people have been criticizing outside the club, and he's saying, I recognize your fears and I'm gonna sort these things out. It feels to me like paying lip service to it, because I find it hard to believe that he's gonna come out and publicly say my best mate has been making a shambles of everything for years and I'm gonna fix it for you and really mean it. I find it hard to believe. I feel like he's just saying it because he knows that's what people want to hear, because they were so disappointed with the previous way, and he's saying things are going to be different when under me. Let's all get behind me. But like you said, Kyle, the first chance that he had in the January transfer window to show I'm going to do things differently, he just did more of the same. So so far the actions are certainly speaking louder than the words, and they're not the right actions from a fan's perspective.
Well, technically, Ed Woodward's last day was January 31st,
So
but
that's a fair point. Fair point.
that doesn't that still doesn't fill me full of optimism, because as well as yourself, if someone's in a job on their last day, they probably aren't, and they probably haven't got the authority anymore. They're probably already passed the torch on by that point, and they're just sticking
Exactly.
around.
Exactly. It should be a transition handover period. By that stage, Woodward shouldn't really be making any decisions. You know what I mean? It should have been handed over to Arnold. Should have been doing it. He should have just been seeing out his time. But yeah, you're right. It looks like more of the same for whatever reason.
Yeah, I can see it happening this summer, where Ten Hag and Ralph Ranić, in his role as a technical director, will decide that this player have to go, and then they're going to be overruled because the club are not getting the unrealistic transfer fee that they want. Uh, is this going to be more of the same, isn't it? I just don't see it changing at all, I'm afraid.
That's what it's looking like. It really is. And this is the thing, is that, at the end of it all, as we've done in the past, rightly or wrongly, we'd all turn around and we'll say Ten Hag failed at Man United, Ralph Ranić failed at Man United. But I would argue Man United will have failed Ralph Ranić and Ten Hag, as they failed Solskjaer, as they failed Mourinho, as they failed Van Gaal. right back to David Moyes, in my opinion. They failed him in the transfer market. They've been failing managers for years. Like I said, the minute Ferguson retired, they went new regime, and the managers never got what they needed from that day forward, in my opinion. So yeah, right now it's not looking great. But look, who knows, Kyle? Maybe things will change. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the players that do go out and come in will just get lucky, and we'll get a group that just clicks, and the attitudes for be fall into place with the manager. Maybe Ten Hag or somebody come in and be really good man manager and really influential, and he'll just accept that he's got what he's got from the club with players wise, and he just make the best of it, and make them really successful. Who knows? People have succeeded with less resource in the past, based on attitude and all that stuff. So maybe it can still happen. But certainly whoever comes in will not be getting the backing that they're probably hoping that they're going to get. So yeah, it's a challenge, as it's proven for Ranić right now. Bigger challenge probably than what he thought. So yeah, I hope it improves.
Yeah, I think what Ten Hag needs to do is take with him 90% of the Ajax squad and then sign about 5 players, and then including Declan Rice, and then hopefully then he'll have the team to compete in all fronts.
A man can always dream, eh, Kyle? A man can always dream.
And just send the rest of them all packing. But you could probably after tonight, I could probably count in one hand the number of players I want to stay at the club in the summertime, to be honest with you.
Yeah, don't blame me. Yeah, I feel a bit like that myself. Yeah.
Another manager who's been talked about is Mauricio Pochettino. I'm sorry, but that ship has sailed. Had he been coming from Tottenham in 2019, we all would have been on board with that. But his reputation is taking a battering, and I know at PSG there's a lot of egos there to manage, and it's not just like United. It's not great conditions for a coach, but he finished second in a one-horse race in Liga last season. This season, it's been a disaster as well. I know they're top of the league, of course, and they just about got through to the next round of the Champions League. I think they were beaten by Manchester City twice in the group stage, but it seems to be he's not very happy in France, and he wanted to go to United in November. I mean, they wouldn't sanction the move, because they believe that a person only leaves PSG when they decide when that's going to happen. But yeah, you've got to say that since leaving Tottenham and going to PSG, his reputation hasn't gone upwards. It's kind of went downwards, hasn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't look great. Like you said, they finished kind of finishing second in a one horse race is pretty bad. PSG are expected to just clean up in Liga every year because they've got they've got what they've got. They've got the resource. They've got Messi. They've got Neymar. They've got some of the best players in the world. There's no real reason. And if he didn't succeed there, it does tell you something. I mean, yeah, the thing with Pochettino is, I like Pochettino, and I know again, a lot of United fans. There's a lot of debate. At one point about Pochettino coming and Pochettino versus Solskjaer and all these other things, and everybody had their opinion on it. But and the people who criticized Pochettino at the time said, well, he hasn't won anything. He's not a proven track record as a winner the way Conte is, or other people that maybe would have been talked about would have been. And unfortunately, he's went to a club where you kind of can't fail, and all you can do is a case of how much can you win. And you would have thought that with the resource, a really, really good manager maybe would have won in the Champions League or something. I mean, that was obviously the aim. And I don't follow that closely. You remember better than me, Kyle, exactly what he has won with there. But he's kind of underachieved. So I think his reputation. He was always a manager that looked like he had potential anyway. He never had a track record of winning things. He was always somebody who looked like he would win in the right conditions. And you would have thought that PSG might have been, well, like you say, difficult environment, but you would have thought with the resource that he would win, and he hasn't done that. So, yeah, I still think the question marks, at best, the question marks still remain over him. At worst, his reputation's gone down. It certainly hasn't been enhanced since those days. That's definitely for sure.
I think he's won the French FA Cup, but I believe that he was only in charge of the final itself, and that's it. The rest of the tournament, Thomas Tuchel was in charge. and obviously he finished second in. I know he only took over in what, January or something, but still to finish second to Lille is pretty poor. I know he's probably going to win the league this season, um, but that still doesn't impress me. I mean, he should win the league quite comfortably. He should have the league wrapped up in March, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that's not. I mean, I just don't. I think everybody agrees that Ten Hag is the more exciting prospect, even though we know the conditions at United are going to be difficult for any manager, because Ten Hag has now built this second great team at Ajax. I mean, before he came in, they hadn't won the Eredivisie for 5 years. PSV were dominating. I think Feyenoord might have won a league title. But he came in and they've just dominated the league since he's been there. Obviously, they nearly got. They were in a hair's breadth of getting to the Champions League final after they put out Real Madrid and Juventus. As everyone knows, Pochettino was the one who actually beat him, ironically, with that Lucas Moura hat trick in Amsterdam. And
And then
this
more of
season,
his drop for the final.
yeah, that's right. And this season, Ajax have won every single group game in the Champions League. I think them and Liverpool might have been the only two teams to do that. And they could get really far in the tournament again. So, given the resources, and you just look at their starting 11, there's about 5 Premier League rejects in there, who weren't good enough for teams like Southampton, and other teams in like West Ham. So the fact that he's getting a team like that, full of young players and Premier League rejects, to Champions League, the latter stages is really really impressive, and they score lots of goals, unbelievable amount of goals they score. So if he can bring that brand of football to United, it would be pretty fantastic. But we know what's going to happen, and they lose a couple of games, and then all the leaks out to the press will be that the players aren't impressed with his coaching, and they're not impressed with the coaches that he's hired, and it's all their fault that the players aren't doing well.
100%. Yeah, yep. It's depressing. Yeah, we've seen it all before. We've heard it all before. We're hearing it all the time. Yeah, exactly, Kyle. Egotistical players who think, even though some of them have won absolutely nothing, have a right to criticize. Great managers, people with good football knowledge, and have more trophies in the cabinet than they have. And yeah, and that is absolutely the fear. Yeah, Ten Hag, like you said, he looks like he's got all the right tools. What would hopefully, maybe, whatever, be positive for him in terms of how he would be viewed internally in the club. You would hope that the fact that he's able to work again with less resource and make the most of it, maybe he would have less demands on who he wants to then bring in. So maybe he would be kind of appealing to the board level because they know they're not going to have to furnish him with lots and lots of riches, in order to be successful. So maybe that would suit them. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would like to see him come in and have a crack at it anyway. But yeah, we know he's going to get in, and he's going to realize there is some serious problems to fix. But maybe he's young enough, dynamic enough, and kind of ambitious enough to do that. But yeah, remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think he would be quite used to not making all the transfer decisions. I think at Ajax, of course, Van der Sar is the CEO, but also Mark Overmars is the director of football. So he's used to having big personalities above him making decisions with him. And if, Ralph Raniak's there making decisions with him, and obviously Fletcher and John Murda are going to be there as well, then that's fine. Just as long as Richard Arnold and Matt Judge are not getting involved in these decisions, that's been the problem for too long.
Yeah.
That needs to stop.
Leave
And
the
then,
football to the football people. Yep.
yeah, leave the football decisions to the experts. Um, I'm just going to bring up something random here, and it's a bit left field, but if Ten Hag does come in, and we're trying to be positive. Obviously, it's not a certainty at this stage, but after that debacle tonight, we want to think some positive thoughts to get us in the mood for next season, because we've already decided this season's over. Um, how would you feel if Ten Hag brought Daley Blind back with him, as a squad player? We know this guy is a good footballer, and I thought it was a bit harsh for Mourinho to sell him. I mean, we were all calling for Phil Jones, Smalling, and Rocco to be sold, and Dilly Blind goes ahead of them. I suppose you can only sell people that clubs want. That's another point, but still, I liked him as a footballer. I know he has certain flaws, but I think he's a really good player on the ball, and he's very versatile. He can fill in several positions. Would you consider him coming back as a squad player with the Dutch manager?
What age is he at the minute? You know.
31, I believe.
Well, he's not that old actually. Yeah, I would. I really liked Dilly Blind. I like all those Dutch players. I think they're we always talk about it. Van de Beek's the same. They're really always brilliant in the ball. They're always really tidy footballers. They're almost like yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I always think they're really good quality. Yeah, I'd be happy for him to come back. Um, I think he's been at United before. He knows the structure. He's played in the Premier League before. Um, I think for me, you know, the small bits that I hear about Van de Beek, that the issues that people have had with him have been the thought he's not robust enough or he's not aggressive enough. Well, I think if that's the criticism, I think Daley Blind is a wee bit has a wee bit more steel about him. Yeah, I'm still very hopeful, by the way, that Van de Beek will get good experience at Everton, get a good run of games, get his confidence up, and come back and do well. So we're not writing him off by any means. But yeah, in short, I think Daley Blind would be pretty good. I always really liked him. A lot of experience. You're never going to get gut busting runs out of him. You know, he's not going to dribble around five people and stick in the top corner. But he's very tidy. He would maybe to me maybe be similar ish to maybe Fred's position or something. But a wee bit more probably quality and experience. So yeah, I'd be happy if he came back. Yeah, I think it would be.
Yeah, he can play in defensive midfield, left back, or even centre half if required. And the most important thing of all is that he's a player with a great attitude. He's really nice guy, not someone who's going to cause problems behind the scenes. There's far too many of those at United at the moment. So yeah, he's someone with the right mentality as a player as well. So if it's probably unlikely, but if that was to happen, I certainly wouldn't complain about it at all. And with regards to Van der Beek, yeah, he's got to be determined at Everton. He's got a Lampard, a manager who clearly believes in him because they had a conversation before he went to Everton. He'd be playing alongside Dele Alli as well, who's got a point to prove. So he's had two managers at United basically who rejected him. He's got to be fired up to prove people wrong. And he's probably seen these stories about him not being, having the strength to play in the Premier League, being too weak. So he'll want to prove a lot of people wrong in this short spell at Everton, and I hope he does, and then comes back to United
Same.
and finds that his former Ajax coach is now in charge of United, and then he can kickstart his Manchester United career. That's the ideal scenario for us.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we said, our season's over. That's probably the last thing we've got to look forward to now is watching Van der Beek play at Goodison Park.
That's really depressing, but it's just not. You're not far wrong. Yeah, that's probably true. That is probably true. Yeah, watching Van de Beek play Goodison Park. I never thought I'd see the dad say that. Flip my head. Oh
That's going
my
to be
god.
our highlight of the weekend now.
Oh flip. Yeah.
When he scores for Everton, we're all going to be celebrating on social media, saying, "Oh, we told you so! I told you."
Told you he finally came good. He finally came good. Oh, flip me.
More like he
But,
finally got a chance.
well, yeah, exactly. He finally got a chance. He finally got to play two games in a row. He doesn't know what to do with himself. Yeah, no. But all joking aside, I totally agree with you. I really hope he does. Yeah, and yeah, I think he will. I mean, he seems like a guy who's got the right attitude. He's determined. So fingers crossed, he gets a good run of games. Everton, gets a chance to get used to the pace and whatever it is in the Premier League that he needs to adapt to, and gets enough time to do it. The confidence goes up, and like you say, having a coach that believes in him hopefully will help him get that confidence up. And then hopefully he comes back to United. I not a different player, the same player he always was, but with the confidence and the kind of the being at that point then more used to the Premier League, and he just hits the ground running. And yeah, if he had a manager there that knows him well and believes in him again in Ten Hag, it would be a bonus. So yeah, fingers crossed.
So last but not least, we seen this week that Hannibal Mabry has become a member of the first team squad for the first time. Now, this is a player that's really excited people who watch the under 23s quite regularly and who've watched the under 18s in the past. Um, and he's a Tunisian international. He was just playing at the AFCON there, and he came back once they were knocked out. Now, I know he plays in a kind of similar position to Pogba and Fernandez, so it's going to be hard for him to kind of get an opportunity, but I'm sure it will come at some point. Um, as the season slowly starts to become a write off, then there becomes a chance for someone like him to kind of get games under his belt and get first time experience. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what all the hype is about. I've seen bits of him, um, but I want to see how good he is, at the top level. And there's a real opportunity now in the remaining months of the season, to give him those games. So hopefully we will see him from the start and make some substitute appearances as well. So have you seen much of Hannibal yourself?
Have to say, Kyle, I haven't. I have to confess, I haven't really seen much of him at all. I'm gonna have to go and look at him now, check him out and see what he's like. No, I haven't seen him. But yeah, I mean, I always think it's a good thing to give young lads an opportunity. And there's no better time, whenever there's a wee bit less to lose, so to speak. If the season does become a bit of a write off. Yeah, I've heard the hype around him. I haven't really saw him play myself. But if he lives up anywhere near that hype, and looking even at likes of the young players have come through Alanga and stuff like that, it does seem to be some great young players at the club who do seem to have a really bright future. And if he can be another one of those, it can only be a good thing. And once again, talking about the issues that we have and recruitment and all that, seeing great young players coming through from the academy and coming in the first team kind of benefits everybody. Benefits even people who are commercially minded, because it's not costing anything. So the more young guys that we can get coming through, hopefully can only be a good thing. Say for all parties really. So yeah, I'm gonna go and check him out now. Yep, and hopefully he does get a chance, and he starts to make a name for himself.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind at all if they even played him against Atletico Madrid, because that'd be a great experience for him. Because let's face it, we're not going to win the Champions League anyway, so that just give a young promising player some opportunity to play at the highest level. Because like I say, even if we get through this tie somehow, we're going to end up playing someone like Bayern, Liverpool, or City, and we're going to get absolutely torn apart. So we might as well use this opportunity to give him, real experience at the top level.
Completely. It's again very, very depressing, but yeah, but I mean, being realistic, being realistic, you're up, you're 100% right. Yeah, anything can happen on a day. You never know. We could get lucky and get through all these games and these ties and get in the final. Stranger things have happened, but realistically, it's not likely. So yeah, I don't see any reason why a lad like that shouldn't get an opportunity. Yeah, no better time than in a big tie in the Champions League. Great experience for him. Yeah, get that under his belt early. And hopefully kick on. Yeah, 100%.
Would you prefer just to lose narrowly to Atletico, or would you prefer to get through that tie, play Bayern, and get absolutely humiliated? What's the less worse scenario there?
Yeah, none of it sounds very good, Kyle. The absolute truth is, for me, being a bit of an Isle romantic, I always really enjoy the European ties against the big clubs. I would much rather get battered in a European tie against a big German club or a Spanish club than lose 1-0 to Liverpool and Man City, and go out that way, to tell you the truth. So I genuinely, as a fan, I genuinely just enjoy those games. And I would like to have as many of them as possible. So I'd be only too happy to scrape through 1-0 against Atletico, have a nice big couple of Champions League ties, and then yeah, go and play Bayern or somebody, and regardless of the outcome, sure, it's knockout football. It makes for drama. Like I say, the worst scenario for me would be getting knocked out by Man City or by Liverpool. So yeah, I wouldn't mind if Bayern battered us. So be it.
Yeah, I'm only really joking, to be honest, but the ideal scenario would be for us to somehow scrape through this, and then City and Liverpool play each other, Bayern and Madrid play each other, and we get sort of an easier tie, and then somehow scrape away to the final. But let's face it, we can't even beat Middlesbrough, so it ain't gonna happen.
I know. Let's come back down to earth here.
And
You've just been put out by a championship team, and you know what I mean. And in the fourth round of the FA Cup, what are we talking about? Champions League finals, flip it out. Let's be realistic. Yeah, no, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, it's
but
just
yeah,
it's not on the cards at all. It really would be a miracle if that happened, and we know from experience of the last 9 years, it's not going to happen. Do you remember the time when David Moyes was in charge, and Patrice Evra scored that cracker against Bayern away? It was like the greatest 30 seconds of the whole season, because Bayern went straight up the field and scored, and that was it all over.
yeah, that kind of sums us up in general. The minute doesn't it? That sums us up since the day Ferguson left. Really, yeah, that kind of just sums it up. I know yeah, it's depressing. I mean, we've had some good moments, beating PSG, when Ole came in and stuff was really good. And they're like I say, I do love these Champions League nights, kind of regardless of what happens. Well, bar an absolute humiliation, I do enjoy them, but yeah,
Do you know what though? That PSG thing has been so over celebrated, and that really shows how far we've fallen, because that was a last 16 tie. We got through thanks to a questionable VAR decision. Then we were absolutely battered over two legs by Barcelona. So there was really nothing to celebrate there. We're Manchester United. We're not just happy to get to the quarterfinals, and yet it just shows that how far the standards have fallen. That we people keep talking about that, and the club keeps tweeting about it as if it was some kind of achievement. We were battered in the next round. Who cares?
I know, I totally agree. The honest truth is for me, Kyle. I think I've said it so many times, not to make the thing depressing, but I have I've had zero faith for so long that things are going to change. That um yeah, you talk about the good times, but the fact is, yeah, I don't. Yeah, the realistic point of view. I just can't keep talking about it week in week out because it's not going to make any difference. It's not going to change. So yeah, sometimes I guess it's nice to talk about some good times, and enjoy the bits and pieces. But underneath it, yeah, you're right. It was just typical. Yeah, it's been blown out of proportion now. I find that hard to argue against.
Okay, hopefully next time we're on together, we're talking about a victory and we're a bit more positive about the future. But I find myself saying that all season. This it feels like it's the 10th time that I've said that this season. That hopefully the next time you're on, something there's something more positive to talk about. But it just never happens. It's just constantly two steps forward and one step back. Like we beat Brentford, and then we beat West Ham with a last minute winner, and we're thinking this is great. The old United are back, scoring last minute winners, and then crashing straight back down to earth by being knocked out of the FA Cup by the mighty Middlesbrough of the Championship. So just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. So I'm just not optimistic for the rest of the season. Hopefully the next time we're on, there is at least a win to talk about. But even if that is the case, we're just not going to get carried away because we just don't trust this team, do we?
No, no, that's it. Like I said, you never know what your team's going to turn up. That's why I'm saying, caveat and everything. We're going to get battered by this team. We're going to beat that team. It could completely the other way around. They're so inconsistent. You go out and get beat by Middlesbrough, then you might play Liverpool and maybe beat them, or Man City, or you get a Champions League tie against Atletico Madrid. You might beat them, get through, and you go, how can this be the same team that just lost to Middlesbrough? But that's the way we seem to be. Um, so unpredictable, so inconsistent, and that's the story really in itself, is that we just can't sustain anything. It can be massive highs and straight down to ridiculous lows. Sometimes within weeks, sometimes even within minutes, within games. It's just like you always say, Kyle, from the sublime to the ridiculous. That really is how it seems to be. Um, but look, I don't know what more can we say. You just have to just hope that things are going to improve, and that's all you can do is hope because unfortunately we've no control over it. We've said it week in week out what we think are the problems, what we think needs fixed, and you just have to hope that somebody eventually actually, takes these things on not on board from our side, so but sees themselves what the problems are and actually puts them right and start to enjoy a bit more success. But it's been a long time. It's been a long season. Yeah, and we can just hope that next season's maybe a little bit better. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, should have just went to the cinema tonight and watched Jackass Forever. To be honest.
You definitely would have enjoyed it more. Yeah,
Yeah, at least we
anyway,
had a few laughs.
yeah. Oh, I agree. Anyway, it's been a pleasure as always.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, everyone, comment down below, like the video, and please subscribe to our channel if you like our discussions. And we will see everyone again, probably before the Burnley game and definitely afterwards. So, leaders.